BJ Mafia was popping. Trent Baalke and the Jaguars front office made a huge splash last season at the deadline by acquiring wide receiver Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons, and the Jaguars and their front office, they've got a big decision to make in a couple of days as the trade deadline is coming up this Halloween, October 31st, this Tuesday, and the Jaguars should be buyers at this year's deadline. Now, the teams I'm going to be talking about that should be trading with the Jaguars, they should be sellers. The Jaguars' mentality going into this year's deadline should be F them draft picks. We're trying to make a deep run in the AFC and potentially get to a Super Bowl. We need to do everything in our position to continuously make this roster, make the personnel better. And that's going to come with edge rushers. Now, there are some other weaknesses on the Jaguars team, but we're specifically going to target another edge rusher alongside Trayvon Walker and Jaguars outside linebacker Josh Allen. Now, before we go ahead and actually get into these trade targets, if you guys please could go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And I'm almost at 5K, so please help me get there. And also, make sure you guys go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can actually go ahead and check that out. But Jags fans, let's go ahead and actually get into these trade targets. And to make this a little bit realistic, I went ahead and did some research. Who is the most notable edge rusher that was recently traded somewhat in their prime, or I guess he was traded in his prime, in recent NFL history? That's going to come with Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack was a former 2014 first-round pick, and Khalil Mack, to me, is a future first-ballot Hall of Famer the moment he retires. Khalil Mack is absolutely going to be in Canton, Ohio. Now, at the time, when he was traded from the Oakland Raiders to the Chicago Bears, the Bears, they absolutely got everything and got their worth out of Khalil Mack. But let's actually take a look at the compensation that the Bears had to actually give up in order to acquire a Khalil Mack, an edge rusher in his prime. The Chicago Bears in 2019 had to give up a first-round pick, in 2020 a first-round pick, 2019 they also gave up a sixth-round pick, and in 2020 they also gave up a third-round choice. The Chicago Bears gave up 2 firsts, a sixth, and a third, 4 total draft picks, but it ended up paying off for him because Khalil Mack continued to assert his dominance. Now, when Khalil Mack was traded from the Bears to the LA Chargers just a couple of seasons ago, let's look at what the Chargers gave up to get him. The Chicago Bears gave up Khalil Mack for a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 sixth. So still a second-round pick and still a sixth-round pick. So in order to do these trades, you're going to have to give up a little bit of compensation, and I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible. But let's actually take a look at the Jaguars front seven and what this pass rush has done and why the Jaguars need to continuously go out there and try to upgrade this position. If you look at the Jaguars front seven, they've accounted for 14 sacks through 7 weeks, 127 quarterback pressures, and 81 quarterback hurries. Now, Jaguars outside linebacker Josh Allen, he's playing at an all-pro level. He's accounted for 7 sacks so far this season, 33 quarterback pressures, and Trayvon Walker in his sophomore season has accounted for 3 sacks and 21 quarterback pressures. He's done a really good job specifically in the run-stopping game, and I think that with another edge rusher, as you continue to allow him time to grow, he's only going to continuously get better. I am nowhere near off the Trayvon Walker train like a lot of people are, but let's actually go ahead and get into these trade targets. And the number 3 target I'm going to talk about for the Jaguars to go out there and acquire at the deadline, it's going to come with Chase Young from the Washington Commanders. Now, Chase Young was a former number 2 overall pick in the 2020 draft. And the big thing with Chase Young is it's been injuries. The Commanders did not pick up his 5th-year option. So that means he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this season. The likelihood of him re-signing with the Commanders is probably slim to none. Jack Del Rio's not a great defensive coordinator. Ron Rivera has not really had that Commanders team up and running. It feels very dysfunctional what's going on in Washington. And like I said, they didn't even pick up his 5th-year option. Chase Young is an extremely talented edge, and he is one of the best young and up-and-coming edges in the game if he can stay healthy. That's been the biggest thing with him, has been injuries. And Chase Young's only appeared in 18 games so far in these last 3 seasons, mostly due to injuries. He's only 24 years of age, and so far in his career, he's accounted for 18 sacks. He's got 6 forced fumbles and 106 total quarterback pressures. This is all per PFF. Now for me, I think that Chase Young right now is a very low risk, high reward type of player that you can go ahead and acquire. I don't think it's going to take much compensation to get him. Yes, you're still going to have to give up something to get him, but I think what's realistic is what I kind of cooked up right here. And this is why I'm not a general manager. This is just speculation. If I'm the Jaguars, I'm giving up a 2024 6th-round pick and a 2025 3rd-round pick in order to go ahead and get Chase Young. You're going to have to go ahead and pay him as well, since he will be an unrestricted free agent. And even though you're going to have to pay Chase Young once you acquire him, if this is the trade, and like I said, this is just speculation, I do think that you're going to be able to afford to pay him because he's not going to demand extremely high money because the production hasn't been there, but also you can meet him somewhere in the median and give him a fair amount of money based on his compensation and based on production in the future. A very low risk, high reward type of guy that I think is worth going out there and grabbing. You put him alongside Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. What an edge and what a great front seven you're going to solidify with that core. Now getting into my second most realistic edge that I want the Jaguars to go out there and try to acquire at this year's deadline. It's going to come with Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings should absolutely be sellers at this year's deadline. Danielle Hunter is currently on a 1-year, $17 million contract after there was a lot of speculation about him possibly getting traded this offseason. But I do think that he's going to demand a big amount of money at 28 years of age. He's a former 3rd-round pick back in 2015, and Danielle Hunter is absolutely one of the best edges in the game of football. He's been linked to the Jaguars. There's been a lot of rumors about him coming to Jacksonville. I want this guy in Jacksonville desperately. If you look at Danielle Hunter and what he's done throughout his tenure in the NFL, he's recorded 80 total sacks. He's got 8 forced fumbles, and he's got 24 tackles this season alongside 9 sacks, and they just came off a big win over the San Francisco 49ers this past weekend. Danielle Hunter has been wreaking havoc, and he's been a force of nature all season long. Now, in terms of compensation for Danielle Hunter, I think you're going to have to give up a little bit more. Even though he's 28 years of age, you're not sure how many more great years he's got ahead of him. I still think Danielle Hunter is worth giving up some draft compensation for and adding to this roster right now. So for me, here's what I mocked up in order for the Jaguars to go ahead and acquire Danielle Hunter. You send a 2024 4th and a 6th-round pick, as well as a 2025 2nd-round pick. I'm okay with giving up a little bit more of fair compensation in order to go ahead and acquire Danielle Hunter. And same situation with Chase Young. You're going to have to go ahead and pay him as he's on a 1-year deal. The Minnesota Vikings probably understand they're not going to be able to retain Danielle Hunter after this offseason. Go ahead and get the compensation that you can for him right now, and then go ahead and send him to a contender like Jacksonville. Now getting into my number one and the guy that I absolutely want the most here in Jacksonville as an edge rusher for this team to target at the trade deadline. It's going to come with defensive edge from the Carolina Panthers, Brian Burns. Now, a lot of Jaguar fans are extremely familiar with Brian Burns. He played at Florida State. He's a former 1st-round pick, I believe 16th overall back in 2019, and he has been nothing short of spectacular since coming into the NFL. Brian Burns has been absolutely one of the best edges in the game of football. He's just 25 years of age, and the reason I want him more than even a Danielle Hunter or a Chase Young, and it's no disrespect to those guys, is he's got the age on his side at 25 years of age. He's in the last year of a rookie contract. The Panthers should be sellers. He's coming back to the state of Florida where he has got a big fan base, and this guy can groom with the team on the direction of this team moving forward. You pay the guy this offseason, you give him his earned money, and he can grow alongside Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker and the rest of this nucleus and this core of this defense with other great young talented players like Andre Sisco, Tyson Campbell, Devin Lloyd. The list goes on. You get a guy who has produced, he's been healthy, he's played in at least 15 games every year of his career, and you're going to give him his bag. I could totally see Brian Burns being happy in Jacksonville with the culture that we've built and the team that's around him. Brian Burns should absolutely be the number one target for the Jaguars. So Brian Burns, since coming into the league, has 42 career sacks, including 8 forced fumbles, and he's got 4 sacks this season alongside 15 quarterback pressures. Like I said, get this man out of Carolina. They should be sellers. They should be looking to add more draft compensation in order to build around Bryce Young. And this team isn't going anywhere this season. Who knows if Frank Reich is even going to continue to be the coach of this team moving forward. Send Brian Burns to Jacksonville. He's on the last year of his rookie contract, and pay that man. Now, in terms of draft compensation, I'm giving up a fair amount, I believe, for a Brian Burns, someone who I think is worth it and will pay off for the Jaguars. I'm sending 2 draft picks in this year's upcoming upcoming draft, I'm sending a 2024 first round pick and a fourth rounder in this year's draft in order to acquire Brian Burns. The Jaguars' mindset should be we're going to be selecting at number 32 overall when we acquire Brian Burns. Who cares about that 32nd pick? Get Brian Burns here, re-sign that man, and let us go out there and dominate in the AFC, make a deep postseason run, go ahead and get to the Super Bowl for the first time in your franchise's history, and go ahead and win that Super Bowl. That 32nd overall pick will not matter to anybody when you go out there and acquire Brian Burns and the Jaguars are in victory formation in the Super Bowl. But Jags fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you guys want the Jaguars to go out there and try to target in this year's deadline? And also, which of these three guys would you want to see in Jacksonville the absolute most? For me, it's Brian Burns, but I would love to get any of these guys here in Jacksonville. I do think the Jaguars need to go out there and make some kind of move. We'll, of course, monitor that situation. I'm sure something will happen after we play a home game at Pittsburgh because if you know, you know. The Jaguars should go out there, take care of business this weekend, and try to look to go out there and make a big-time move in order to continue to compete in the AFC. Jags fans, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second, and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. Very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But Jags fans, that's it for this video. Thank you guys again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ. I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.